Somewhere in your kitchen, there is a shelf you refill on a schedule you have never once stopped to look at. Maybe it is the cabinet under the sink instead, or the inside of the fridge door. Wherever it lives, three things sit on it: a water pitcher with a filter cartridge clipped into the lid, a small cardboard box of baking soda propped open on a cold fridge shelf, a plastic tub of moisture crystals shoved into the back of a damp closet. Not one of them looks like a bill. Every single one of them is the filter cartridge in that pitcher gets pulled out and replaced about every 2 months, and a fresh one runs about $6 to $7. The open box of baking soda on the fridge shelf is meant to be thrown out and swapped every 30 days. The plastic tub of white crystals in the closet slowly turns to liquid and gets tossed about every 45 days. Line those replacements up across a single year, and that one quiet shelf keeps billing you for the cartridges, the boxes, and the tubs on a loop that never actually ends. You did not decide to buy these things forever. You bought the pitcher once for the clean-tasting water. You bought the baking soda once because the fridge smelled. You bought the moisture tub once because a closet went musty and damp. Somewhere after that first purchase, each of them quietly turned into a standing order. A cartridge dropped in the cart every couple of months. A twin pack of baking soda boxes grabbed on the grocery run. A 3-pack of moisture tubs off the hardware aisle because you already know that closet will need them again. That is the calendar of rebuying, and almost nobody sits down and adds it up. The spending hides in plain sight, one small, forgettable purchase at a time, tucked on the receipt between the milk and the paper towels. None of it costs much on any single day, and that is exactly how it gets you. Now picture one small stick of Japanese charcoal set down beside that shelf. It is a glossy black thing about the size of a thick crayon, dark as coal and plain as a twig. It costs a few dollars and you buy it exactly once. That single stick quietly stands in for all three of those products: the water filter in the pitcher, the deodorizer box on the fridge shelf, and the moisture tub in the closet, and it does the work with no cartridge to reorder and nothing printed on the side telling you when to throw it away. Here is the part that should bother you a little. Those three products all share one thing by design. They are built to run out. The cartridge clogs, the baking soda fills up, the crystals dissolve into brine, and each one leaves you the same quiet instruction: buy another. The black stick of charcoal does not do that. It never runs out. Think about what that difference is worth over a few years on that one shelf. The pitcher cartridges alone at $6 or $7 every couple of months add up to real money, and that is one product out of three. Stack the deodorizer boxes and the moisture tubs on top of it, and the running total climbs the whole time, month after month, while you barely register a single charge. One stick, bought a single time, sits completely outside that system. I am not going to hand you a miracle here though, because there is exactly one job this little stick honestly cannot do, and it happens to be the job it gets sold for the loudest. You will find it printed right on the packaging, dressed up in a big, confident word the charcoal has not actually earned. I will name that word plainly before this is over, and I will show you why the honest limit, the thing the sellers leave off the label, is the very reason the stick is worth keeping on your shelf at all. So here is what the next few minutes actually hold. 3 recurring purchases you have been quietly refilling for years, one plain black stick that replaces every one of them, and one honest answer about the 4th thing it will never be able to do. No sales pitch and nothing you cannot check for yourself. Start by looking at that shelf again, the one you keep refilling on a schedule, and really count what is sitting on it and what it quietly costs you across a year. So pick up that one small black stick and turn it over in the light, because it has a name, and the name is a person: Binchotan. It traces back to a charcoal wholesaler named Bicchu-ya Chozaemon, who began making it in the town of Tanabe in Wakayama during the Edo period in the Genroku years of the late 1600s. The plain stick you set down beside your shelf is running on a recipe more than 300 years old, and it still carries the maker's name the way a good kitchen knife carries the mark of the smith who forged it. This is not some ancient secret only Japan was ever clever enough to find. People have burned wood down into charcoal all over the world for as long as there have been fires and cold nights. What happened in Wakayama is narrower and quieter than that. The method was kept, named, and refined in Japan, tended by the same families over generations, until a plain black stick became a precise, repeatable thing, the same in your hand today as it was 3 centuries ago. Start with the wood, because the wood is half the story. Binchotan is made from ubame oak, a tough, slow-growing hardwood so bound to that stretch of coast that it is now the official tree of Wakayama Prefecture. Ordinary barbecue charcoal will take almost any scrap wood you feed it. This stick will not. The oak is heavy and dense to begin with, and that density is what lets the finished stick come out hard as stone instead of soft and crumbling to black dust. Then comes the fire, and the fire is where ordinary charcoal and binchotan finally split apart. The oak goes into a clay kiln and cooks low and slow for days. At the very end, the maker does something that sounds backwards. Instead of smothering the fire to protect the charcoal, they open the kiln and flush it with a rush of air, a step called narashi, and the inside spikes to over 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit. That blast of heat scours off nearly everything that is not carbon and leaves the surface hard and pale with white ash. The whole method has come down essentially unchanged since Edo, one kiln, one maker, one batch of glowing sticks at a time. What comes out the other end barely resembles the black lump you toss on a grill. It is almost pure carbon, commonly around 90%, and it is so hard and so dense that it behaves more like a bar of metal than a piece of burnt wood. Here's the test that gives it away. Knock 2 sticks of real binchotan together and they do not go thud. They ring, a bright, clear, metallic note, closer to a struck rod of iron or a small bell than to anything you would expect out of charcoal. That ring is exactly how a buyer in Japan tells a true high-fired stick from the soft black barbecue kind that only looks the part on the shelf. Cheap charcoal answers with a dull, dead knock. Binchotan answers like iron. So that is the object sitting quietly next to your shelf, a 300-year-old stick of oak, fired hard enough to ring like a bell, with almost nothing left inside it but carbon. And that same plain black stick is the thing that stands in for all 3 of the products you keep rebuying. It does the water job, the clean taste your pitcher cartridge is dropped in for. It does the odor job, the smell the little box on the fridge shelf is there to swallow month after month. It does the damp job, the wet closet air the moisture tub soaks up before it turns to liquid and goes in the trash. 1 black stick, 3 standing purchases, and nothing printed on its side telling you the month is up and to buy another. But knowing what the stick is does not yet tell you how to make it work, and this is the exact place where most people quietly give up. Because there is one step, one simple thing you do to the stick before it will pull a single molecule of anything out of your water or your air, and almost everyone skips it. Miss that step, and the stick just sits there doing nothing while you decide the whole idea was a myth. Get it right, and that one hard black surface starts doing all 3 jobs at once. Here is what is actually happening inside that stick. Fired that hard, binchotan becomes a natural activated carbon. What the heat left behind is not solid at all. It is a maze of microscopic pores, tunnels branching into smaller tunnels, packed so tightly that the hidden surface folded up inside that one small stick, if you could unroll it and lay it flat, would spread out many times larger than the stick itself. That is the whole trick, folded up inside a black rod you could hold between 2 fingers. All that hidden surface does one simple thing: it grabs. The chlorine drifting through your tap water, the sour smell sitting in a closed fridge, the wet weight in the air of a shut cupboard, all of it gets pulled onto that carbon and held there. The word for it is adsorption, sticking to a surface rather than soaking all the way through. And while the stick is quietly pulling things out of your water, it can hand a little back, a trace of calcium and magnesium loosening off the carbon into the glass. But none of that surface does a thing straight out of the bag, and this is the step. A brand new stick has to be simmered in a pot of water for about 10 minutes before its first use. That boil drives the trapped air out of the pores and opens them up, and only then does the surface wake up. Skip it, drop a dry stick straight into your pitcher, and it just sits there, a black rod doing nothing while the water tastes exactly the same. That is the moment. That is where somebody tries the old way once, decides it is a myth, and gives up. The stick was never the problem. The unopened pores were. And here is what those 10 minutes really buy you. That same pot of boiling water is not only for the first day. Every few months, when a stick starts to slow down, you drop it back in the pot, boil it another 10 minutes, and the pores clear out and the surface goes back to work. It does not get used up. It never runs out. Where every product it replaces is built to expire on a schedule, this one plain object gets boiled back to life, over and over, for years. Now watch that single surface do 3 separate jobs. First, the water. Stand the stick in a glass pitcher of tap water and leave it a few hours. The chlorine taste, that faint swimming pool edge on a fresh glass, gets pulled onto the carbon, and the water comes out clean and flat and soft. That is the exact job a Brita standard cartridge is dropped in for. That cartridge is rated for 40 gallons, about 2 months, and then it is thrown out and rebought at roughly $6 to $7 a piece, forever. One stick does the same taste job for about 3 months, and at the end of it you boil the stick instead of buying a new cartridge. Second, the smell. Take that same stick, let it dry off, and set it on a shelf in the fridge. Now all that surface goes to work on the air instead of the water, drawing in the onion, the old leftovers, the sour note in the back corner. That is the job the little yellow baking soda box is doing on that same shelf. The Arm & Hammer one you are told to swap out every 30 days. Move the stick into a musty closet or a shoe cabinet, and it does the identical thing there. One object, quietly following the smell around the house. If this stick ever earns its keep in your kitchen, it is worth knowing it can go on earning it long after you. This is the kind of plain, honest object that used to get handed down, still working in the hands of whoever keeps the house after you are gone. Set one aside for them. Then look at the third job. Third, the damp. Stand the stick in a cupboard or a drawer that always feels clammy, and that same hungry surface pulls the moisture straight out of the closed air. That is what a DampRid tub is for. But the tub works by dissolving. Its white crystals melt down into a pool of brine in the bottom, and once that fills, you pour it out and buy another. The stick dissolves into nothing. When it has drunk its fill of damp, you set it out in the sun for a day, the moisture lifts back off, and it goes right back into the cupboard. One dries into the trash, the other dries back into service. One stick, 3 standing purchases, canceled by one hard black surface. There is only one honest catch left, the single job this thing genuinely cannot do, and it is waiting on the other side of this. The catch deserves to be said plainly. This one stick is not a purifier. Look at the box some of these sticks are sold in, and you will find that exact word printed on the front, and the word is doing a lot of lying. Binchotan pulls chlorine, odor, and damp onto its surface, and that is the honest edge of it. It does not kill the bacteria or the viruses living in bad water, and it will not pull a heavy metal like lead back out once it is dissolved in there. It cannot turn unsafe water into safe water. Drop it into a jug from a doubtful well or a backcountry stream, and all you get is doubtful water that happens to taste a little cleaner. The rule is simple. Use it on water that is already safe to drink, to make good water taste better. Never reach for it to rescue water you would not have trusted without it. That single honest limit is the reason the whole thing nearly disappeared. Somewhere along the way, a plain kitchen object got dressed up and sold as magic, a miracle purifier that would strip anything out of anything. So people tested it against that impossible promise. They ran it against the germs and the lead it was never able to touch, watched it fail the test it was never built to pass, and decided the old stick was a fraud. And out it went, the lie and the real thing thrown into the trash together, 3 genuine jobs lost because someone oversold a 4th one it never had. Now the part worth being clear-eyed about, because none of this is a conspiracy. Nobody hid this stick from you. The cartridge in your pitcher, the box on your fridge shelf, the tub in your cupboard were simply designed to run out. And a thing designed to run out is a thing you buy again and again. That is a business model, not a plot. The refill company is not evil. It is just selling you the calendar over and over, while this one plain object quietly steps off that calendar and stops asking to be replaced. And when it finally does reach its end, years from now, it still does not become trash. A stick that has spent years being boiled back to life will eventually go soft and crumble in your hand. Crush what is left, work the black grit into a garden bed or a pot of soil, and it keeps right on working down there, opening up the dirt so air and water move through it and the roots can breathe. The spent filter cartridge goes to the landfill. This one goes into the ground and feeds it. So look one more time at that shelf you kept refilling. The pitcher filter every couple of months, the deodorizer box every 30 days, the moisture tub every few weeks, a small tax you paid without ever deciding to. One hard black stick, bought once for a few dollars, cancels all three and asks for nothing back. You boil it, dry it, carry it from the pitcher to the fridge to the cupboard, and one day out to the garden. It never runs out. Knowledge like this was never supposed to belong to whoever sells the refill. It moved the other way, across a kitchen, from the hands that kept a house to the ones that would keep it next. So take your turn with it. Use it on your own shelf first, until you trust it, then say it out loud to someone younger than you, honest limit and all, the way it was said to me. That is how a plain black stick outlives everyone who ever owned one, carried forward in a habit passed hand to hand. And there is always another of these quiet old methods waiting, one more thing a house used to do for itself. Stay close, and I will bring the next one to you.